Hi everybody, and welcome back to Hex Token channel. Woohoo! Good timing, eh? I think this live stream is probably timed just about right today, just in the nick of time. So I hope you guys are enjoying yourself out there, relaxing, of course, during the holiday. I'm just going to check the audio, and that sounds pretty good. So we're going to get out of that. And I've got a poll in the house today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about a few things. PulseChain Sacrifice is soon, pretty imminent within the next well, anytime now until before the end of the year. So a day or two, within a day or two, looks pretty exciting. Obviously, we're going to get, when PulseChain does launch, it's going to be the biggest airdrop in history. And of course, we're going to have the biggest yield farming in history too. It's going to be mind blowing, potentially billions of dollars worth set up through the AMM bot. It's going to be mind blowing. It's going to attract everybody all over crypto into that. It's going to be pretty amazing. Of course, we're going to look at hex price and analysis, so it's going to be a lot of fun as well. So welcome everybody. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. Sit back and relax. We're going to have pretty much a sit back and relax, or as we say it, stake hex and relax, kind of that sort of attitude for today's live stream. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got a poll up today at the moment. Of course, got 8 votes in there already. How many people have you told about the PulseX sacrifice? How many people have you told about the PulseX sacrifice? And of course, we've got 1 to 2 people. You've told 1 to 2 people. You've told 3 to 4 people, or you've told 5 to 6 people, or even 6 or more for some of you big influencers out there. Pretty cool. We've got 11 votes in there at the moment already. 6 plus is already leading. Almost 50% have told 6 or more people about PulseX sacrifice. So really, really good, folks. That's how you grow a community. That's how you get viral. That's how you add more value into the ecosystem, and that's how you get scarcity of supply. So very, very cool. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. All right, so fill it out, folks. Let's get into some of the comments. I'm going to pull up these. We've got Marco in the house. Marco says, "What's up? What's up?" I do love that scary movie. I think it is. What's up? That's pretty funny, and great to see you, Marco. Luke Wild in the house. How did you think the Meet Kevin interview went? Actually, for the most part, pretty good. There's a couple of little minor tense moments in there. But hey, that's a Richard Hart interview, so it was pretty good overall. I actually rate it pretty well. Probably actually one of the better ones if you think about the questions that were asked and some of the answers. I thought it was pretty good. So I give it a good 8 out of 10. Now I understand, of course, Kevin has something like over 1 million subscribers, and actually haven't been on this channel myself. I was just taking that off some of the comments or something like that. I can't remember now. But yeah, that's a great time. What a perfect timing before PulseX Sacrifice to have such a big audience. Probably mostly new audience introduced as well. I know that a lot of Hexkins have been donating to Kevin, I think, on his chat during live streams for some time. Kevin was mentioning that, and he said, "Oh, I'll finally do it." Got some tweets, and let's go. So I thought it was a perfect timing. Hats off to Richard, of course, for doing that interview. Very, very cool. All right, so very cool. Matty Allen's just finished his live stream. They had Kareem the Dream and many other people on there. Very, very cool. Of course, they hit on the Tour 555 club as well, Tour 555 tour in the United States with the, I think I always never say this properly, with the Krapu Spuck guys. I always botched that up, but you know who I'm talking about. They're in Florida at the moment, having the time of their lives. I think tomorrow they've got a big conference, Hex conference on it over tomorrow to educate potential new investors, and also I think they've also got the big yacht tour as well. They're going out in the yacht with at least 12 or 13 Hexkins paid events, so very, very nice. And of course, I think they had people like Gerardo there as well, so big shout out to them. They're doing a great job. We're going to actually look at the Hex Expo online conference set up for early January. That's at Matty Allen's running, so we're going to check that out later in the live stream. So it should be a lot of fun too. So I hope you guys will enjoy that. All right, get into the chat, folks. You know how we roll. We like to have a fun time during the chat. Let's get into the price first of all. We're going to get into Hex price, 28.5, 28.6 cents almost. Today, this is the daily chart. We've come off the top of the Bollinger Bands there in blue, and not looking too bad. It's pretty much, I've been saying it day after day, that we're going to have this rise. let's pull up the old structure as well. So this is my structure from my last weekly price update. I do apologize for being behind on that. I'm about a week or so behind, but I did that price prediction back on the 11th, and the price is pretty is tagged it pretty well. It did front run a little bit, as I say in here, but essentially it's looking pretty close. Even the little dip here that I've got at the moment is looking pretty similar. So the reasons are slightly different. I got the PulseX sacrifice somewhere in here. That looks like the case, and I am expecting a bit of a price rise as well. So at the moment, I have been saying for a number of days that I expect us to trade pretty much between 27 and 31, 32 cents. You know, with half a cent either side. So that's pretty much what it's done there as well. So not too bad. We had a bit of sell-off. We've also got stakes coming out. We talked about that in the daily vid. There's got a lot of stakes coming out all the way up to the 2nd of January. Once after that, of course, man, oh man, I just have a feeling that maybe a week after that, maybe the 8th or 9th of January, I think we're going to have a real price boom. I think that's going to be quite crazy. I think it's going to start ramping up, and I'm going to do a price prediction video on that. I want to do a whole one for the whole of 2022. That's what I've been thinking about. So yeah, I think that's pretty exciting. I think we've got a couple of catalysts there for that, and so we're going to talk about that in a separate video. So I'm going to not talk about it now, but it's definitely going to be happening for sure. Big Hexkin says, let me have a look here. Big Hexkin says, PulseX can't come soon enough. Going to be massive. Yeah. I think we're all been waiting long enough for it, so it's good to see that it's going to be out in the next day or two, and it's going to be pretty imminent. I have checked PulseX.com, Pulse Info. There's no updates on there. I think someone Muzz out there in the community leaving comments that there's a timer. I haven't seen a timer. If you're aware of a timer, the only place I could see a timer would be on those sites or on Telegram. So Muzz, I haven't seen what you're talking about there. Yeah, it hasn't been officially launched on Twitter yet. Haven't seen that either. So those are the official sites. Always go to the official sites, even when someone makes a comment about it. You must always do that. Richard Hart Twitter, the Telegram official sites, the PulseX.com, PulseX.info sites. Those are where we're expecting it to happen. So they're all blank at the moment. DHex says, hey, woohoo, let's get it. Absolute DHexin, good to see you in the chat. And Marco says, Marco, all up the house. I like the vibe there, Marco. I like the vibe. And it's Marion's in the house as well. Hey, good to see you, Marion, as well. All right, so don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, and of course, let's get into this. So it's following the structure pretty well at the moment, as you can see. So looking pretty good. I'm going to get rid of a lot of the stuff when I do my news price updates, and that's going to be fun too. The yellow vertical line is the end of the year. So we have got this little space of time here for PulseX to launch, and Richard has indicated that. We're going to check that out in a second. Then we're going to come back. We're going to go check out Richard's tweets, and then which he's just done in the last 7 hours. And then, of course, we're going to come back to look at the data chart there on the Hex. So this is 7 hours ago. Richard Hart was saying, I hope you're watching PulseChain.com, man. So replying to somebody, PulseX.com sacrifice starts in a day or two. So that was 7 hours ago. So still consistent there. Very cool. Let's jump over to here. We've got BTC. This is responding 6 hours ago to somebody. BTC, man, the sacrifice phase of PulseX.com is starting in a day or two. Message me if you have any questions about it. Uniswap fork, buy and burn 21% fees, and a giant liquidity from harvesting. Uniswap and Sushi liquidity pairs at launch 99.9% emptied. And of course, that's going to be potentially worth billions of dollars. And you know, a lot of people that get harvested will get Pulse in return. So it actually helps the Pulse token pretty massive. So that's going to be pretty exciting. It's just going to be amazing to see people from far and wide find themselves coming onto PulseChain. It's going to be inevitable. You know, crypto, people follow the incentives, they follow the price, and of course, massive liquidity, massive incentive opportunities. You're going to see people jumping. And of course, the rollout is going to be a bit different. We're going to check that on the timeline shortly. I've updated the timeline completely from yesterday. I've just updated from all the basic info that I've seen and have refreshed the timeline for PulseChain and PulseX on this channel. It's my opinions, of course, but it's based on the best information I've seen from Richard provide. So that's where the guidance is going to come from there. So we're going to check that out pretty shortly. All right, so let's go back to the price here. Price is looking pretty good, tracking pretty well to the green price prediction there. And of course, let's check out on the main indicators for the TA. You know how we like to do that. And of course, TA's the CCI index, this commodity index there, is just pulled back, still in very bullish territory. Anything over 0, which is this line, bullish. And of course, it's come back into there. And I'm expecting that to actually loop back up. That's my expectations there at the moment. So we definitely had a couple of good days up high around 200. So it's pretty cool. Let's check out the next one. We're going to check out the MACD. And MACD is still looking very positive there. We have come down on the volumes, but there's no reason why we won't get another double rise. So still expecting that. So we'll watch this as it may just tip back up there as well. So let's scroll back there. So as long as it doesn't cross over the signal line, the yellow line will be sweet. And I'm expecting that because obviously we have, it's not just TA, but we have a fundamental event happening, which is the PulseX sacrifice. So that's on the MACD, the moving average, as they call it. We're going to check out the next one, of course, which is the RSI. The RSI is still looking very cool. We're over 50, and that's the key line, that line there, and still looking very positive there with a nice uptick. Be nice to get back. We've got plenty of room for a price rise, folks. Plenty of room. So that's looking good too. And let me get out of there. We're going to go down to the EFI and have a look at that. So if I've just cooled down a bit, so that's all good. Gives us some more room as well. We've seen that, when we pull back here, we had a nice little rise afterwards. We'll get a slightly different pattern here, but the EFI is looking good too. And we're going to check out the volume oscillator. Volume oscillators come down, obviously prices come down there, just cooled off a little bit, so that's good as well for a nice uptick, which we could get some big buying once people know the sacrifice is on. People, there's always those people that are late that go, oh mate, I do want to get in now. I've been procrastinating. I haven't picked up any Hex, so I want to pick up some Hex now. So that's what we're expecting to get a bit of that going on as well. All right, so and obviously that's got to happen in a short duration between maybe any big whales that sacrifice at the beginning. Expecting the bigger accounts to sacrifice more than the retail amounts, although I think the retail amounts might surprise people to the upside. Is the total value of sacrifice going to be anywhere like PulseChain? I probably not, but Richard talked about today 300 million was some numbers he just threw off during the live stream. We'll see whether it gets to around that. Remember, the PulseChain one was in excess of something like 650 a million in there, and so we'll see whether it beats out that 670, 650, something like that. So actually, it was probably just over 700 if I remember rightly, somewhere in that ballpark. Obviously, the Origin account also sacrificed on top of that, but we'll see how that gets. Will it get 50% of that value? Let me know in the chat what you think about that. But definitely got a lot of people that will be into the yield farming, picking up that PulseX deflationary token, and of course with the 29% fee buyback and burn, it's a pretty major pump mental on that. Especially with the yield farming incentive token on top of that. So it's going to be pretty mad. So still looking. So we've got a bit of a blue across the red signal line there. Now that typically would mean just a falling. The buying. That's the blue line's the buyers. The yellow line. The orange line is the sellers. So definitely moving down there. But let's see if it can do the less likely option and cross over the red one, which I think it will do because of the PulseChain sacrifice starting just at the beginning period. We always have the probability of possibly a sell-off, just like we saw last time. We've got to play that more likely than not, but it may not do that as well. Especially we may have a little sell-off and then towards the end of it a nice pull up. So we'll watch that. I'm going to think more about that one. Let me know what you think in the chat. All right, so that there is the DMI, which is pretty popular. So very, very cool. So TA, mostly kind of a mixed bag, but any chance to move up. And as I say, the PulseX sacrifice is really that fundamental holding up as price smashes up against that wall. And we've managed to hold up into this range, which is pretty positive. We've had the green candle as I thought we would, and I expect us to possibly have another one there leading into the sacrifice. So we're going to watch that too. All right, let's get into some of the comments here before I move on. Alex says, PulseX sacrifice imminent. Sounds like only a day or two away. Absolutely, Alex. Great to see Alex, our moderator, in the chat. And Hex is about to go parabolic. Tension in the price trap. Yeah, that's right. After the 2nd of January, all those big stakes are out, and of course there will be some OG short stakes, maybe 30 days, 60 days. We'll probably see some of those, but there's a massive gap between the 2nd of January 2022 and about the, I think it was the 9th of May 2022. There's a massive gap there. Hardly, relatively speaking, hardly any stakes coming out. All those big candles gone, unless we get some of the circulating supply that's in the house at the moment that's been coming out over the last month and a half. It's actually getting staked during that period. So, but once again, it's really is getting scarce. We know that we've got all this buyers demand coming in from PulseChain launch, from Hex scale, all that good stuff coming in. Billionaires walking around the place, putting their toes in the water. And if they're happy, they're likely to rapidly increase their exposure, particularly around PulseChain. So it really is looking pretty exciting, man. Low supply, high demand. I mean, it's a gift made in heaven. So looking very, very good for that. All right. So Marco says, DHEX, yeah, I think I will wait to sacrifice on day 3 or 4 so I can watch Hex pump. Yeah, well, that's the risk you're taking. So definitely a play. Let's see what that would be. Let's say we launch on the 31st. Would probably be tomorrow, my guess, but let's say 30th or 31st. Then Richard wants also to be good rates on the other side in January for the people that are getting salary paid and stuff like that, and taxation at the end of the year. So you're probably looking maybe to the 3rd or something like that, the first 5 days. And so yeah, you could definitely watch that, the 4th and 5th. That could get a bit of pumpamentals there if people are pushing their salaries and other stuff in there. That could be interesting. Doesn't necessarily have to follow the PulseChain price that we had during the PulseChain sacrifice. And of course, the amount may or may not be maybe 50% of the amount. We're going to find out how many people are chasing that big yield farm return there. So it's going to be interesting. DHEXkin, me too. On the weekly, we have a doji forming, says DHEXkin. And Marco said nice. And we've got the lightnings going on. Very cool. Bearded Saints in house, got the big thumbs up. And DHEXkins, are we getting a Superman pump? Hey, I like that, DHEXkin. Definitely, it's looking good. It's looking good. The only definitely looks like we could get a real nice move up in the price. The only thing, of course, is we've got to get these stakes out of the way. We did see a stake, like I say, about half a day ago, and of course they early in staked. We talked about that strategy yesterday, that people might want to sacrifice their maybe early in stake some of their Hex stakes, and then pay the penalty, and then maybe cash some out, some of the profits into USD, if especially the OGs have got big gains, and then possibly they might sacrifice some Hex into the Pulse Hex thing. So we're going to watch that account. That account to that had something like 20 million Hex in the stake, at early unstaked about halfway, and I think it was about 1,100 day stakes, unstaked like 560 days or something. They paid the penalty, which is basically most of their interest, and probably big payday in there, and it was about 10 million. So they got about 10.3 million. They then sold about 3.4 million of that 10.3 on the market. That actually impacted our market over the last 24 hours downwards, and then yeah, it would be interesting to see whether they take the rest of that, about 6.9 or something like that, million Hex, and whether they do some sacrifice with that, or what are they doing? Or are they just going for the US dollar gain? They're going to copy on PulseChain. What are they? All those different strategies. What are they going to do? It's going to be interesting to see that. But were they an example of someone that decided to break their Hex stake early and try to go for PulseX gains and try and play that? So it's going to be interesting to see that outcome. So pretty fascinating. Alex says, let's get into Alex's comment. Marco, just be aware that people tried to time the market for PulseChain sacrifice. Best Hex price was day 2, I believe, not day 5 as many expected. Yeah, so that's the only offsetting factor, is that the first 3 days during the PulseChain sacrifice were the best days, and not day 4 and 5. So just take that into account. Just depends whether we get whether there's much appetite to suppress the price on the later days, so that once the whales are in, they sacrifice early, and then they're happy to see the price go down. Maybe they'll pick up some at the bottom as well on the floating amount. So that's kind of where Alex kind of talking about there. Or the end of the sacrifice phase, day 70. Yep, that's right. X Marion said, go Hex, absolutely. It's Marion says, you guys joining the pool. Yeah, you're talking about the liquidity pools. Definitely be joining the liquidity pools on PulseX, if that's what you mean. There is an impermanent loss risk, obviously. That depends on whether you're putting free tokens. The ratio between tokens changes. You may impair permanent loss or permanent gain. So just take that into account. Marco says, yep, good point. And yep, me too. And Michael O'Keefe says, the talk has been that transactions on PulseChain will cost pennies at 0.29%, $2.90, 100, even though a lot cheaper than ETH. It's not quite pennies. Where did the pennies talk come from? Yeah, well, that would be $2.90 on $1,000. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, so let's jump over here, and you're talking about PulseChain or Pulse Swap there. Don't forget there's a difference between a transfer and a swap is probably the way I talked to it, Michael. And is this cheap enough for all the failed projects on ETH to bounce back on PulseChain? And also, can the new EFT projects survive at that rate to keep up the good work? Hey, yeah. So the difference between a transfer on the PulseChain and a swap on the PulseX is kind of different fees. Just like you've got different fees on Uniswap. You have doing a swap sometimes can be like $60 on Uniswap, as opposed to PulseChain, which is opposed to ETH, where the transfer might be like $7, $10, something like that. Rags to Riches, a good analysis. Hey, Rags, good to see you in the house. Check out Rags to Riches, done a lot of great videos lately. Definitely go check out Rags to Riches. Big shout out to you there. And Alex Casey is 0.29% is the trading fee, not transaction cost of PulseChain. Yeah, that's right. So just remember that that PulseChain is like Ethereum blockchain, and PulseX is like Uniswap or Pancake, something like that. Just keep that in mind. So it's different between doing a transfer on PulseChain and doing a swap of tokens on Uniswap or Pancake or SushiSwap, something like that. So there's a big difference there. Bearded Saint says no pool sacrifice. Says Beard. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. No pool. No, I'm not sure what that conversation is. Some people might be pool. Some people do. They form their little own syndicates if they can trust other people. Sometimes they go and sacrifice together, try and get a higher bonus and volume multiplier. So we'll see whether many people do that. I did that last time for the PulseChain sacrifice. Was in with a trusted group, and that's fine. But you must have super high trust, like basically close to 100% to do that is the case. Alex K says, I think PulseChain transaction would be much better, much less than pennies in the early days. I do too. Like my only issue is, of course, around on Polygon, they increased the gas fee from 1 Gwei to 30 Gwei. So I'm not sure what your thoughts on that, Alex. I think they cited a lot of gaming bots on the blockchain or something. So I can't remember exactly why they did that, but that definitely increased the fees quite a bit there, even though it's still super cheap. But something that PulseChain may have to deal with too. Rags to Riches says, my man, Bearded Saint to Bearded Saint, very cool. 0.29 or 100 is 0.29, 0.029. Yep. And Alex Casey, the trading fee is built into. Yeah, we're talking about. We're talking about Pulse Swap there. Alex Casey's the trading fee is built into the cost you see on AMM, so you don't feel it as much. That's right. So Alex is right about that. David Lee says home away from home. Evening all. Hey David Lee, good to see you. And yeah, home away from home for sure. That's what the Hexkin, PulseXican community is like. It's very, very cool. Alex Casey, it's more like a spread, not a fee. Yeah, that's true. All right, so so this let's have a look at the hourly here. We're going to jump over there and look at the hourly. Let me just update that. Have a little let's look here. So hourly. So Alex, let me just hide that too. We're going to hide that. So this is what we've had over the last few hours here. So definitely in the sell-off here. I think this is back when. Let me have a look at the time zone there. Time zone on that's 1600. So we were back at 1 here, so 1300. Yeah, so it was one of these one of these red candles here. I think maybe this one. This is where we had that 10 million sell somewhere in there. It's either in there or in this one here, might have been this one here. That's where we had that 10 million sell from that one early unstake. So we'll see whether their strategy pays off for them or not. Very, very cool. So that was the latest from Richard Hart. Once again, I've seen no update on PulseX.com, PulseX.info with any launch dates. So we're waiting for Richard's official announcement on Twitter. Very, very cool. We're going to jump over to Twitter there. Move that away there, and we're going to go down to the live stream. If you haven't checked out the live stream, that was with Kevin. I think he had over 100 million subscribers, so it was pretty awesome. Definitely check that out as well. I might post that in the chat there in case you haven't seen it there. David Lee says, Rags, I joined the pool tonight. I made a plankton, says David. All right, so I'm not sure what that pool is about. Is that something on Rag to Rich's channel? Yeah, so maybe Rag to Rich running some poll. I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, so that's Richard Hart's votes with Kevin there. Very, very cool. All right, so we're going to jump over to the roadmap. So I've updated this based on the latest information that Richard's last couple of live streams and stuff like that. So I've actually moved a lot of stuff off here. So his last live stream, we gave a date, was still 6 weeks to 2 months out for the launch of PulseChain. So now I've moved quite significantly. I've moved from about the 3rd of February now to around about the 20th of February for the launch of Mainnet and PulseX. And Richard talked it. So on the 26th here, that's this orange line here, and said that it would basically be 2 months to 6 weeks away still. So still using that kind of terminology. And of course, that was a little bit less using that terminology, but now he's got back to that. And the reason why I think that is the case is because currently we're in PulseChain testnet 2.0. You know, we have seen a lot of updates in the GitLab that the devs have been putting in there. And as I move that rocket down there just a moment, just a little bit there. But we're coming towards the end of the year here, and we are moving at the moment. We're about here, and that's probably about 18 days, something like that. And I've just got the timeline going into the future, into maybe the middle of January. Could actually be longer than that, but I've got a question mark there for that. I have got the testnet 3.0 overlapping that, of course, starting 15th, given that there's probably a 2-day overlap, something like that. And I've got that going all the way through. Richard did say it was going to be short, or indicated it would be short, but then you never know with software, do you? And so that runs through the 29th. I've got a little dash line just extending that out. Perhaps it goes into February. And the reason why is because of the AMM bot, not the balances, not the distribution balances from the PulseChain Sacrifice, but the AMM bot running. And I wonder whether if they do a harvest test, that might take more coding a bit longer to do. So that's my only concern there, and so that's why I've put this dashed line in here to represent potentially that concern. And that is why I also gave, with Richard saying maybe 2 months away, 6 weeks or something like that, that I've got the midpoint there being the 20th of February now. So definitely moved out here. And that's where I've got my PulseChain. So that's the rationale there, folks. Obviously, the PulseChain PulseX Sacrifice is in the red arrow here, and of course, we're expecting that to start any day now. So tomorrow, 31st, definitely in the next wee while. 12 to 30 hours away. I think Richard said on the live stream as well, something like that. So definitely looking at this happening, and of course, that dash line at the end there is some sort of mercy period. Richard's talked about having that severity maybe shortened, of course. It's going to be shortened inevitably if PulseChain is going to launch. And of course, possibly the factor of 1.05 penalty being lower. It might be 1.03 or something. So we'll see how that plays out as well. But otherwise, pretty identical. 10,000 pulse points to 1. Expecting that, of course, to be the first 5 days. So that's these days over here and here. And it may end up going up maybe on the 4th of January, something like that. Maybe it starts riding up at some factor, maybe 1.03, 1.04, something like it was 1.05. Richard is definitely going to pull back the severity on that. We'll see. And then obviously the last 3 days we had a flat rate 1.75. Expect to see that as well. First 16 days we also had on top of the base amount of 10,000 points to $1 and then increasing by a factor. Also had the volume multiplier bonus as well. Obviously, if you're the biggest sacrificer, last time we had a 30 million one that was at they got pretty much around 2.5 multiplier on their base amount, and of course the small fry got about 1.1 if you had like 10,000 or something like that, and much less than that if you were lower than that, which is a lot of people, right? A lot of people less than that. So really it's the base amount that you want to get, and therefore probably earlier is better. Earlier is generally better, and of course you can speculate on the hex price, and maybe it will go up on day 4, 5. I definitely think that after the second, we've got no real big candles, but that said, we've still got that supply and circulating supply. We don't know what people are going to do. Are they going to sell it? Are they going to hold it for copy on PulseChain? Are they going to sacrifice it in the PulseX sacrifice, or are they going to stake it short, medium, or long term? Also get the copy on PulseChain. Seems like the 4 big choices that those big people have to make. So that's going to be interesting to see that. And then of course people are going to that new yield farming token is going to be very popular in my opinion, and that's going to also be a real upside as well. So a lot of people will be trying to chase that down, especially all those mercenary yield farmers, and so it's going to be fascinating to see that play out. So there's my updated timeline, folks. And of course at the moment on PulseChain Testnet 2.0 we've got Uniswap front end done. The bridge is done, but Richard said he hadn't tested it. That looks like an ETH bridge. And so this looks like how we're going to have the start. Obviously, once PulseChain goes live and PulseX as well, we're going to have obviously the fork block involved with that. We might get a little bit of notice about that. Richard's going to avoid the gamification, that people can't play that. They can't pull liquidity on the Uniswap block. So he's going to play that very carefully, and of course stop other players from trying to play that as well. So they're probably going to have the first day up, of course, running at 0 price. Everything starts off at 0, probably 24 hours for that. And then, of course, we will have the AMM bot running the harvesting all the tokens from all the different pools, and then all the dexes and stuff on Ethereum, and we will then have a ratio established. Obviously, all the PRC20s will be harvested, and of course, in return, people will get Pulse tokens, and therefore they have an option once it all goes live. Of course, once it's open to the public, as it were, that they will then be able to buy back PRC20s, etc. And of course, there will be a delay, expected a delay of at least 1 or 2 days after that. So in that period, before we get an ETH bridge, then people will be able to possibly, all these pools will be set up like PulseX versus Pulse pools. People will swap that as well on the PulseX. So a lot of that stuff's going to happen like bam, 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 and then obviously when that bridge comes in, you can have all this external economic energy, as well as we talked about the Sphere and on-ramp as well, particularly credit cards around that. Now I know that Kinetic's team's also doing something around that, so it's going to be interesting to see that. So that's kind of the way I see it running at the moment based on the info provided thus far. So let's know in the chat about that. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. I mean, February's still a very good time frame. And yeah, if we can launch by then, I'd be very happy. If we could launch by then, that'd be perfectly fine. Let's get into some of the comments here. David Lee says sacrifice pool for PLX SX. It says David Lee. Okay. And Mr. Hex says, I've been trying to educate Kevin about Hex for 2 years, and he missed out on mad gains. But I can say he finally graduated today in crypto and finance. We're talking to Richard Hart. Yeah, well, Kevin actually seemed to have done a bit of research. Must have at least done a lot more research than a lot of people that interview Richard about. So he was definitely trying to drill down on the Origin wallet, who owned it, how it operates. He probably could have done more about how it operates. Richard kind of gave him a bit of guidance to that. But as I've always said to you, it really is the regulator, like the Fed Reserve. It sort of regulates supply, returns, stuff like that, and that's what it's shown to do in practice. So people can say it's going to do something, but what are its actions? And its actions have been like a financial regulator, in the sense of regulating, not a regulator in a regulated sense, but a financial operator. Let's put it that way. That manages the yields in the ecosystem, and of course has indirect benefits of market cap if it's included, stuff like that. So definitely very, very cool. All right, let's get into the stuff here. I think we've got a super sticker there somewhere. So big shout out to Rags to Riches. Hey, appreciate the super sticker. Big shout out. And high density knowledge and data. You don't waste a second. Thanks, man. Keep it up. Hey, appreciate that, Rags to Riches. And a big shout out for the super sticker there. Very, very cool. All right, so I'm not sure whether that was down here further. There we are. Let me post that there. Very nice. Big shout out to Rag to Riches for that. Very, very cool. All right, let me just jump back up here. I've got to make sure not get too far behind here. We're going to a day release is plankton just above minimum. Yeah, so you got the plankton. So I don't know if you guys have seen, let's jumping back to Hex for a second. Don't know if you guys have seen much changes in the actual, they have the staker leagues on a staker app. Now that is in the video description. If you haven't downloaded it, definitely download it. It's very, very cool. Everyone uses it pretty much these days. And of course, in that has staker leagues, and it basically represents a percentage of the shares that you have in Hex staking. And of course, when you stake Hex, your Hex gets destroyed or burned, and you get shares in return. And of course, your shares rank you, and that's just really a bit of fun because obviously it's just sort of kind of arbitrary, but does give you a sense of what investor level you're in. And of course, there's been a lot of changes amongst the middle area. So you don't typically get a lot of changes in the shark level. Maybe one, you might see one move in or out there at some stages, then you have the dolphins, and you've got a lot of dolphins there. Also whales, I think, is at the top, sharks, and then dolphins. Yeah, and so occasionally you can see some movements in dolphins because some of them, sometimes they're the ones that are selling down. Some of the Hex OGs, they're the ones selling in the market, typically in the dolphin class. And then also underneath it is the squid class, and of course the squid class, you also see some of the ones near the top of that are some of the ones that we've seen selling too in the top of the squid class there. And then of course you see people moving in from the tinkering turtles is the next one. You see a lot of them. That's been that has sort of slow growth sometimes, but sometimes you see them moving into the squid class, especially if the price goes down. They get the T shares when they're cheaper. Maybe a T shares worth 3,000, 4,000, so they get more T shares because they understand how it works. So they're getting, and then they move themselves up the squids. And then underneath that, of course, you have other ones as well. So I think it's planktons and other stuff. So very, very cool. They all move up the ranks. So we've actually seen a lot of movement in those as the stakings have come out in October, November, December. We've seen a lot of moves, particularly in the last 3 or 4 weeks in that staker app, just changing around. And of course, this is where we talk about this is happening now. It's not happening in the future, but in the future, we're talking about even further that people that are chunking turtles, if they've got long stakes, not short stakes, but long stakes past say 6 years, that then they might end up being they'll end up being, if they're still holding their T shares, they'll end up being in the dolphin class or something like that. Like they'll have jumped those categories. So it's pretty fascinating to see that, but we're actually seeing it now during this big staking period that's maturing, and we've only got a few days left. Well, we've got 4 or 5 days of this big staking, and then it's out. And then, of course, we do have the circulating supply. We'll watch out what people do with those. And then, of course, any restaking that's in during this big gap, man, right through to May. Big demand coming. I mean, honestly, it's the fundamentals are ginormous, and to see this play out, it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be. I think it's kind of the biggest thing since the big payday. It's going to be ginormous. I think it's bigger than even PulseChain and Sacrifice in some ways. Really, it's going to be fascinating to see that play out. So I'm very excited about that. Mr. X says Kevin claim to fame was aping in Tesla early and making money off stimulus YouTube info streams. Oh, nice one there. Yeah, I don't know. I have never seen him before, but he does remind me of that actor, one of those actors in Hollywood. What's the guy's name? The guy does a superhero. I just forget his name, but he does remind me of that guy. A guy with the 2 samurai swords. He's got a red mask on. I just can't remember his name, but he does remind me of that guy. He was in the movie The Engagement or something, The Engagement or something like that. Can't remember now. Anyway, I better stop before I embarrass myself with my lack of knowledge of his name. Mr. Hex says he missed out a big time on Bitcoin, Hex, and PulseChain Sacrifice. Well, he's got a chance to get into PulseX, so if he does his due diligence, he will get himself on board. And we've got the, looks like Alex, I don't know if you've dealt with that one there. Let's see if we can get in there. Let's come back here. think Alex might have, let me just get rid of that. I'm not sure what that is. So, bam. All right, so I just got rid of that one. All right, so then Mr. Hex says, I used to go by Mr. Bitcoin and changed my name to Mr. Hex for a reason, folks. Hex and Pulse will be a mass adopted on all 2022. Hey, Mr. Hex, you're absolutely right. Next year is crazy. Retail virality next year. And big money, big billionaires, potentially institutional investors, IRA funds, the trusts. It really is huge for next year. It's going to blow people's minds. And when we hear people talking about, $7, $10, $15, we've got all the fundamentals lining up for that. And it really is going to be a big exciting time for 2022, leading into 23 and beyond. So it's going to be really, really cool. David Lee says that's where the passive aggressive questions came from. Says David. Right. And says DX. And Kevin is a crypto pleb, but he's a fast learner once he gets in there. Yeah, we asked a lot of good questions, so he'd obviously done some good due diligence. He a lot of people miss a lot of the questions that he asked. So it's good on to him now. Will he get into PulseX and not botch up like he did the last time? So we'll find out because we all know where it's going, right? It's the golden standard. I said in all the crypto projects, you want the golden standard, and Richard Hart is pretty much set up the golden standard product. So it's that's how simple it is, really. Mr. Hex says, but I can tell you once. So we're going to jump out of there. I'm just going to go back to the hourly chart there. We'll watch that there at the moment. Mr. Hex says, wait a minute, let me just get out of here. But I tell you, once he gets it, he won't be able to stop promoting Hex, which will be super bullish on YouTube. Hey, well said there, Mr. Hex. I appreciate those insights there. Great streams, Hex Token, by the way. Man, you're killing it. I do appreciate it, Mr. Hex, and big shout out. Love this informative chart. Yeah. So I think it's quite useful, especially for people that don't get the chance to keep track of it. And I do try and update it and keep it up to date as much as possible because, man, it's going to be crazy for 2022. So it's going to be quite useful for that. And yeah, once again, big shout out to Rags Richards for the super sticker. All right, so there we are. We've got D Hexton says, has Kinetic sold? Said anything more about Hex Scale? So let's go back to that because I watched the whole of Kinetics. He said nothing in today's live stream about Hex Scale. So that's why I've moved Hex Scale from the end of December into the beginning of January, and that's what happens. I'm familiar with these type of investment vehicles and the work that's around it, and of course, so we're waiting for a launch. I've now put it starting at the 3rd of January, and that's kind of in the new year period. That may be mid-January by the time they actually get going. If they've still got lawyers looking at it, it's definitely probably going to flow into mid-January because lawyers all go on holiday down to their batches and stuff like that, whatever they do. And yeah, we've got Hex Scale moving into there. I might actually move that word there. So Hex Scale pushed into the new year. Waiting to hear something from Kinetics. So come on, guys, let's ready to roll. It is Christmas, summer break, a New Year's break. That's why I do expect to push Hex Scale and probably end up being in the middle of January by the time they get launched, maybe 7th or 8th. They will be looking. They want to get those funds in their trust. They want to get that private target hit. And of course, they've got to get in there before if Hex does move up. And I'm feeling very bullish for like a week after the last big stake comes out on the 2nd of December, January, 2nd of January, that I think that we could really get a real big price move on Hex. So they need to be maybe quick, otherwise they'll be paying for it. Even with a split token by February, even if we end up with PHEX and EHEX, they'll be paying for it either way. So they can always choose to go for the EHEX, which is he certainly showed initial interest in that, but they'll play that out. So they're also going to get themselves to grips with 1inch and Matcha to do stuff like that. It seemed that Kinetics didn't have big knowledge around that, which would be very important if they're going to be doing big fund buys, because they can't just sit there doing market buys. They need to use those to spread out their buys over the pools there, over the dexes. So something interesting. They've still got a bit of work around there. Very, very cool. All right, so let's jump back into that. Good question. That was a good question there, D Hexkin. And Luke Wild said, agree that if he decides to on board, it will send the price parabolic. That's right. If he's got, I haven't checked his channel, I haven't had a chance, but if he has got over 1 million subscribers, as I think that was indicated, then that would be massive, right? There's no going around that. Even if he's got 10% engagement, it's 100,000 people, right? So Very, very cool. Mr. Hex says, once PulseChain reaches its peak, Richard Hart will fork it and give us even more Hex. Yes, he's talked about that, Mr. Hex. He's talking about that. You see the big smile on my face because, yeah, pump the bags, pump the bags. That's a few years away, though, right? A few years away. Technology in crypto is going to advance quite a lot in the next 3 years, so we should have some solutions around this stuff as well. DHex says, what's the name of Kinetics Trust? Well, at the moment, we just got a placeholder name, Hex Scale. We don't know the official name yet. We're waiting to hear that from Kinetics team, DHex can. Mr. Hex says, Rag to Riches Santa Claus video was amazing. Yeah, go check out Rag to Riches channel. Done a lot of great videos on there lately, so you can definitely check that out. Mr. Hex says, I'm a god turtle. Says Mr. Hex, hey, nice, I like that, and I like the little picture of the turtle there. Very, very cool. God turtle, I like that. So that's basically suggesting you're near the top of the turtles, right? That's what you're saying, or you're number one turtle, Tinker Turtle. That'd be pretty funny. Mr. Hex says, good accounting. OA stakes will push us up the staker class. That's true. That's true. And Mr. Hex and D Hex says Ryan Reynolds. That's it. Ryan Reynolds. That's who Kevin looks like. Ryan Reynolds. So go back, have a look at the video, and I did leave it in the chat there earlier. He looks like Ryan Reynolds. That's so good. Thanks, D Hex. You saved me. You saved me on the live stream. All right, Simon Ball says, sorry, came in late. Have you discussed Richard Hart's tweets about sacrificing more for PLX in order to get PLS before the ETH bridge opens? Wondering if this is the play or if it's better to get a PHEX at the fork. Yeah, we've talked about that ourselves, and of course, that is a play that you can actually do. I'm not sure if that one was back here. I think it's this one here. So we'll go back. I think we've talked about this one here already. The PulseX.com sacrifice should start in a few days. This is 23 hours ago. Maybe you could swap your PLSX for PLS at a good rate after the PulseChain main launch, but before the Ethereum bridge to Pulse open. So people are going to do that. Some people will do it at the beginning, especially if the Pulse is the one they're after the most. Others will do it. They'll elite PulseX. Possibly they think PulseX is going to outperform, which is a reasonable assumption. You can build that up based on our video that we did the other day. We showed the fact that if you get if the yield farming gets set up real fast, it could get so much buying economic energy in it that PulseX really goes up in value faster than Pulse. So that's the idea behind that. Yeah, you could end up getting a bigger X's on PulseX and then buy a lot more Pulse. Hold that Pulse for medium term because you know over time that will likely outperform the yield farming PulseX. So, but once again, Richard made both of them deflationary. So it's a pretty big deal there as well. And given that the yield farming, the PulseX yield farming is really kind of the big killer app on top of the chain. You have to think about other killer apps that are going to come onto the chains. So something food for thought there. Obviously Hex is another killer app on the chain, and that obviously you got massive staking with the share rate and going up and to the right, and you've got the high yield, 37-38% plus penalties. Like today we had over 40% during those penalties, and I said to you those penalties are only going to get better in the future. What's the average length? There's all these short-term stakes coming out. There's maybe 1 or 2 year stakes coming out. The average length now, we're up to 5.99 years, folks. We're just about to hit 6 years, 5.99 years. And of course, if you want to beat that average rate of return, you've got to stake longer than that to beat out the stake return. But once you do that, of course, you're going to have the T-shares. And when all those stakes start disappearing, all those people that are up in Dolphins, maybe they got shorter stakes, they'll start disappearing, and you'll start rising up the staker leagues. And of course, your T-shares will be earning even higher. Like you think that 6 Hex per T-share is high now, it could be 30, 40 Hex a T-share, and you'll be laughing yourself at the high prices. So definitely that long game's played out. And I think the real Hex Godwell talks like that. He says, I just sit back and I just let the time play out. I'm willing to sit back and wait 5 years, 10 years. And that's what the Hex Godwell does. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out for sure. Who's got the diamond hands? That's the thing. All right, very, very cool. I see that Kareem obviously has got those max diamond hands. I think the stakes ladder, if I remember rightly, is everything's staked 10 to 15 years, if I remember. I don't think he's fully staked 15 years. I think it's 10 to 15 years, but he doesn't have any shorter stakes, as I understanding in the case. In fact, I think he was talking about as he gets paid income, he goes and buys more Hex. So There we are. There's a Hex Maxi there for sure. So that was the other one tweet, and the other tweet, of course, we got was this one. 20 hours ago, example: PulseX launches with Pulse. When Pulse does, anyone can start a PLSX trading pair on PulseX. So I mentioned this earlier. Anyone can add liquidity to it. Anyone can trade it, and then a day or two later, the bridge to ETH comes live, and Pulse can start absorbing the economic energy from ETH and ERC20 tokens. So that's going to be pretty mad as well. So we hope the bridge will have all that capacity to do that, stable coins and stuff like that. So yeah, don't forget USDC Tether, USDC, you'll be getting those airdropped. But of course, they do have admin keys, and they're at sort of that higher level admin key level. So we'll see how those custodials operate that. At the time, will they risk of pulling them, or will they just let them run and then back them up potentially as well? So with the real US dollars, whatever they back those up 1-to-1, it's typically what you expect. And so we'll see, or will they just be there fractionally reserved, and the market will price them up to 1-to-1 in a pretty fast order. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see that play out as well in time. So those are probably the two cool things there. Let us get into some of the chat here. Mr. Hex says Kevin and Graham Stefan, and let me just go back to the price here while we're talking about these comments. Kevin and Graham Stefan and Andre Chickle did finance and real estate videos. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'll definitely go check out Kevin's channel. Like I said, I hadn't heard of him before this, so if he was, especially in property. David Ryan says, have you seen the timer? No. So people have been talking about the timer, but I haven't seen it. I checked all the logical places, but haven't seen it. So if you do have the link to the timer, let me know in the chat at the moment. Let me know. Let me know in the comment section after the live stream, because I was trying to find the timer. Muzz was talking about a timer, but I haven't been able to see one on any chats. It's on Telegram. Let me know, because I haven't seen it on PulseChain or PulseX or PulseX info either. DHEX is going to swap all my liquid EHEX for HEX prior to the bridge. Says DHEXkin. Very, very cool. And Muzz says PulseX sacrifice running until the 25th of February. The sacrifice rate will increase the first time on 10th of January. Okay, Muzz, I'll definitely add that into the price, into the timetable chart. I've just got to confirm that. Very, very cool. So that's on a site. Let me know in the comment section where that link is, Muzz, because I'll definitely add that in. Mr. Hex says, I'm sacrificing my girlfriend for PulseX, lol. And so that's pretty hilarious. And okay, that's nice. Mr. Hex says, Mr. Hex, yeah, laughing up there. Ace the aliens in the house. You got everyone laughing now. There, D-Hexkin. Sorry, Mr. Hex. And David Lee says, awesome stream. Thank you. Hey, David Lee, appreciate that. And Marianne's laughing as well. Mr. Hex says 10 years will go by so quick. 2 years already went by fast. Just right. So 2 years, and Hex is very well established. Typically projects that fail, they fail within maybe 3 to 6 months. So Hex is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger by the day. And so obviously PulseChain and PulseX are looking the next big eras for the Richard Hart's ecosystem. Mr. Hex says, if you can't stake for 10 years, there was something wrong with you. Yeah, that's true. And Alex K says, yes, hard to believe it's been over 2 years since Hex launched. Absolutely, Alex. And 10 years to achieve financial freedom, that's easy. Yeah. Obviously, if you're, I think even the shark that unfortunately had a breach, they were they about 72 years old or something like that. 70. I think they had 10-year stakes, even 15-year stakes. Obviously, they're going to think they were going to look to pass it on to some of their family, but definitely is the case. So yeah. All right. So Muzz says sacrifice running until the 25th of February. So we're going to definitely look into that. Not sure where the timer is on though, because it wasn't on the. Let me have a look here on the Richard Hart. Let me just update this on this page. Cheers, everybody, by the way. It's going to be exciting, man. It's going to be a crazy time. I'm hoping that Pulse Leads has a site up. That'd be pretty cool if they can cover the sacrifice. Remember out there, just remember, if you're new to the sacrifice, make sure you use the official links Don't, make sure either Richard Hart Twitter, the PulseX.com, PulseX.info, or Telegram groups. Make sure you get your links from the official places. There'll be lots of scammers out there, so you don't want to have that. So yeah, definitely the time hasn't been announced on Richard Hart's Twitter. Yeah, I'm not sure where you're getting that link from. PulseX.com. Have a quick look at that. I'm not sure where that's come from. PulseX.com. We'll pull that up. Hopefully that's going to pull up there. Oh, it's just not accepting that for some reason. Anyway, we're gonna come back to that anyway. So if I get the timeline, I'll definitely update everything, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. It's definitely going to be exciting. HexConference.com, Hex ticket. This is Maddie Allen's running this. This is going to be pretty cool as well. And I have got that on the timeline. You see this big star there, the Hexpo conference. So that's coming into play. And yeah, if that was too far, let's just change this while we can. I'm going to verify this, but we're going to move up the hex scale thing up to the 25th there, and we'll have the little rope up there. So it's making it a little bit more interesting there. I'll take that. All right, so let's have a look here. So this is a Hexpo conference. This is coming in early January. This is also another pump and mentor. Really gets the community going, economic energy going, new investors. Very cool there. So that's Hexpo. That's run by Maddie Allen's team. So big shout out to Maddie Allen. They just did a live stream actually, and you can see it there. So there's Maddie Allen right there. And it's going to be running from was it the 3rd to the 6th, I think. So yeah, 6th of January to the 9th of January 2022. Very, very cool. Live on YouTube. So it's Hexpo online, and of course they've got the day. Let's have a look here. I'm moving around that a bit. They've got the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. They've got hour 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 6 hours there. So 4, 6 is a 24. I guess 24 hours. Very, very cool. They're going to have intro to Hex panel. On the first day, they're going to testimonials panel. They're going to have Hex talks, power of T-shares. If you want to learn more about T-shares, they're going to have that. They're going to have a social media on hour 5, and then Hexkin social. So that'll be a bit of general stuff there. On day 2, they're going to talk about price, Hex talks. You got, you got crypto coffee over here. People I can recognize. Very, very cool. Kareem the Dream, very nice there. You got the dissent panel. These people are dissenters, so be interesting to see that. These people are dissenting, so it's going to be quite. They're putting themselves up for some chat abuse right there, getting up there dissent panel. So we'll see what happens there. Discord syndicates, the highest of stakes keynote. That's really cool. Look at that. These are the keynote ones. So that would be really cool. So definitely get on that, especially around the hex scale. Possibly might get something around that as well. But it's talking about the highest of stakes, which is obviously the big documentary that's going to help virality. I expected that to come out late Q3 2022, early Q4 2022 is when that should be finished. So that's going to help with the virality in 2022 and take the Hex and PulseChain and PulseX into 23 as well. So very cool. Then you've got the Hexkin musicans, I should say. Man, I almost couldn't say that. And then you've got Hex Social at the end there. So it looks like Hex Social at the end of every day. Day 3's got the devs, the Hex Talk. So if you want to look at the technical side of it, get some real insights, the devs going to be really fascinating. Then you've got the Quants panel. So pretty awesome. And then, which is Maddie's channel. Then you got Pro Sports, Southern Wealth. Get some sports people that have made it well. Obviously, we've got a lot of NFL players in Hex Stake 5555 and stuff like that. So pretty cool. The Sense Foundation looks like they're going to be queued in there. Hopefully, they'll be there. And of course, that's pretty exciting. Obviously, something like 27 million raised through the PulseChain sacrifice for that. So it's awesome. New YouTubers, social. So obviously, it's a massive explosion on YouTubers in Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX, no doubt. And much more. So new tubers there, it would be pretty cool to see that. Hexkins at the end of the day. Day 4, of course, mental health, which is a speciality of Manny Allen's, who's a psychologist. I understand it by trade. So very cool. Then Hex Talks there. You got Steph John Wick, who did the good accounting for the Origin account stakes that came out late November, early December. So John Wick's going to be there. You got Kareem the Dreamers again. Then the spotlight Richard Hart on panel. Looks like there's going to be a panel there with Richard Hart, and then the keynote speaker towards the day 4, Richard Hart himself, very cool, and then a Richard Hart social. So there's going to be plenty of nice Richard Hart there on day 4, and then Hex Token Social after that. So very, very cool. Nice, and schedule subject to change, but here's all the details there. I have put the link to this Hexpo conference in the video description, so you can check that out as well. So very, very nice. Now, very cool. There are a few more details there, but you've got all the further details down here. Looks really nice, and you got all the people down here in the panels. You got all the famous people. You got the Crypto Spunks here, Cabana, Big K, Motley, Hexo, Hodl Dog, Johnny Chaos, Funding Jim, Super Hex Win. I mean, there's so many people from the community. It really is crazy there. So definitely check that out on the link. So really nice there, and a big shout out to Maddie Allen, who's making this possible. And of course, get tickets now for in-person event in March. So there's going to be in-person events in March. So this is a January one, but there will be an in-person one on March. So you can get that at hexticket.com. So a big shout out to their team for doing this. Onwards and upwards, you can see there's real growth happening with leaders within the community expanding the ecosystem. So very, very nice. There looks like they're going to have a conference center there. Looks fantastic. Shame I won't be able to attend that, but that looks super, super good. So lots of stuff happening there, folks. Hope you enjoyed that for sure. And let's have a look at Mr. Hexkin. Let's get back into the chat here. We're currently sitting at 28.6 cents, so looking pretty good in the price range there. You can see that if we scroll that back, the price range is looking pretty good. I'm going to move to the 4 hourly. How about that? That's probably a better way of looking at it. I'm going to move to the 4 hourly chart. So yeah, you can see pretty much that we're holding that 27 to 32 cent mark. Obviously got a slight downtrend at the moment, but really just a quiet before the storm. One might even see a big bull flag the further back you go as well. So yeah, looking good at the moment, and absorbing all those stakes coming out. That's the big thing. This price is holding up with all those stakes coming out, so people are definitely thinking about holding, getting copy on PulseChain, restaking short, medium, long, getting copy on PulseChain, sacrificing for PulseX, and of course you will get some that will sell, and we have seen some of that. So, but still holding up against all that stuff coming out really is pretty neat. Mr. Hex says, I'm sacrificing my girlfriend PulseX low. Have I gone out? This is like a rehash, is it? And I think I've read all those, so I do apologize. I think I've scrolled back too far. And I think we're up to DXkin here. What do we got going here? So DX says, everyone here will be a multi-millionaire to billionaire and beyond. Looking so good. Can't wait to give money away, says DXkin. Nice one. Very, very cool. And Amen, says Mr. Hex. And the David Lee says the compassion cartel. I like that. So a lot of Hex big ethos in the Hex culture, PulseChain culture is if you do well, pay that forward. So that's kind of where that comes in. It's very nice. Good one, David. And Jade says this, people on Telegram say they saying the countdown site being shared in Telegram is fake. So yeah, that's what I was worried about. That is that the Telegram one is that it's not on any official sites. So it's a shame about that at the moment. So I'm going to move that back at the moment to my other one at the moment there. Yeah. So yeah, the only place that I thought it could be was on Telegram, and I haven't been able to log into Telegram for a little while. So that's the case there. I'm not sure how many 19 days was, but 16. I think that's about right there. So until we get the official stuff, there's nothing on Twitter, nothing on PulseX.com or info. So yeah, definitely cool. Thanks for verifying that. And yeah. All right. Yeah, I had a chat with Matt on private Zoom. Such a great guy, says D Hexkin. David Ryan says not true, and big happy there. MSF6 says what happens when sacrifice rate increases? Basically, you get less. You have to pay more. You look at it two ways. You have to pay more in US dollar amounts to get PulseX tokens. The same amount. So if it's $10,000 to one, once it hits the first 5 days, it's the same. So you get 10,000 points per one every day based on the US dollar amount that you have. And then of course on day 6, it starts going up by a factor. And PulseChain Sacrifice, it was 1.05, and then it compounds on itself. But if you if Richard makes that a lower, you might make it 1.03 or something. We're going to find out. Then you're still going to you're going to pay more. It's going to cost you more to get that 10,000 points. So now at the moment for PulseChain, it's like probably something like $2,500. $2,600, something like that, for 10,000 points now, as my guess. It's up and that high, which means you're going to get about 2-3 points, 2-3 points for $1 at the moment for PulseChain Sacrifice. Obviously, PulseX is going to be brand new, so you're going to get 10,000 points for $1. So it's a good time. You're lucky to get another opportunity. Basically, it's very, very cool. Hopefully that helps you there with that one. DX says Dave Lee gave Matt a dream about him and house for PulseChain. I think it freaked him out as him and his mate were at the property on the day he received the email. I see. So very, very cool. All right. So looking good there, folks. This is the timeline. Looking pretty good. This would be 19 days running through here. I'm pretty sure I had the right day there. Running through to about there, and then we may get a grace period here. Just going to make sure that's up there. Grace period after that. We are waiting for the official announcement. Remember, Twitter. So I thought someone had dropped a link. I haven't been able to find that link. It's not on PulseX.com, PulseX info, or on Richard Hart Twitter. That just shows you doubly that you need to double check the details. If you don't see it on those, if it's not on PulseChain official pinned at the top of the message on PulseX Telegram, PulseChain Telegram, then it's not real. It's just a fake. So if you see a comment in there and it's not pinned to the top of the message board, then it's a fake. And of course, it looks like someone has managed to fake out people in that chat there as well. So yeah, very, very important to watch that. Yeah, once to say Hex Scale looking at the new year. Funding Jim has been talking to billionaires. He's the billionaire liaison. Does amazing work for the community. Very, very cool. Now, another thing that Richard talked about, we're talking about billionaires and the big money coming into the space, is that Richard was talking on his live stream with Kevin that he'd been talking recently to billionaires that were, just putting their toes in the water, looking to increase their positions, no doubt, if they're happy with what they see around PulseChain. Hex, of course, they were definitely very excited about PulseChain, kind of like the Ethereum copy. And so they're definitely looking at that. Obviously, Ethereum performs so well, and of course, sometimes it takes a little bit around to get their heads around Hex. So a bit of education going on there. But he even mentioned that he talked to some billionaire in Singapore. So that was pretty interesting. He actually dropped that out of there. So I thought it was pretty cool. But you've got Funding Jim out there doing that. Funding Jim's talking to billionaires, people with hundreds of millions of dollars, to $20 million minimum type of thing. It's very cool to see all the stuff that these guys are doing. They are the, if Richard Hart is the kingmaker, people like Funding Jim and the Kinetics and people like that out there, Matty Allen, in their respective areas, like the generals on the field. It really is great to see spreading around like that. So very, very exciting. All right, let's get back into the price there. Hey, we're heading up towards 29 cents. Woohoo! On the live stream. Yes, that's what we like. So looking good, folks. Looking real good. All right, so not too bad. Right, David Ryan says Richard himself mentioned that web address on stream a few days ago, and David Lee says, "Dude, forces that are of secret natural origin at work within that group," says David. And yeah, we've got another spam one there. Don't know where these Russian ones get their code, but seems to be the case. Let me just get rid of this one here. Bam. Can I hide this user? And timeout, hide user and channel. I guess Alex is not around at the moment, so if Alex, if you do see any of those, if you could please delete them, that'd be very, very cool. All right, so BJ AGM says, do you have to sacrifice more than 10K in order to get 10,000 points per dollar? Or can you sacrifice $1 and receive 10,000 points hypothetically? Yeah, the later. You can sacrifice $1 and get 10,000 points is the way you could do that. So obviously that'd be easier if you're doing it on the Polygon chain with super cheap fees. If you do it on Ethereum, it's going to cost you more than $1 to send the dollar. That makes sense. So you can use Polygon. Will be on the link there, or another chain that's similar, maybe Litecoin or something like that. I don't know how cheap Litecoin is these days, but I think it's still relatively cheap. So yeah, DHexkin says, I know, bro. Well transfer to people looking help others. Amazing times, absolutely, DHexkin. And David at least says, yes, sir, yes, sir. And Alex K says, just skip over them. If I hide them, they still show up on your screen. Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. All right, we've got our poll, folks. Let's get on the poll. 67 votes. Woohoo! Not bad, not bad at all. How many people have you told about the PulseX sacrifice? Remember, the best thing about Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX, and Richard Hart always says this, you know, to lead us, the community growth, is that you know, we play the biggest role in self-promoting your own investments. So just get out and do that. Sounds like a lot of people are doing some terrific stuff out there. So 67 votes. We've got people saying that they've told 1 or 2 people. That's 28% so far. 67 votes. We've had 3 of they've told. We've got 24% told 3 or 4 people so far, and 30% have told 5 or 6 people so far, and 1 in 3 folks, 1 in 3 have told 6 people or more. Now that's terrific results. That really, really is cool. And most time you would not see those results. That is fantastic. So keep up the great work there. I'm going to end that poll, and let's get into there. That's going to pop up there for sure. And Mr. Hex says, I told my 80,000 Twitter followers about Pulse, says Mr. Hex. Oh, beautiful. That's fantastic. So big shout out to Mr. Hex there, doing it nicely. DXKins, nice. Yeah, very cool. Those are terrific poll results, folks. Really are really good. So keep out the work, just spread the word. And of course, it's just going to be a fantastic future. And obviously, PulseX is a huge opportunity. That next one, and obviously, so many people have told me over months and months. Oh, I got late for PulseChain Sacrifice. Is it worth sacrificing now? Can I get the sacrifice? Well, now it's now you got a fresh opportunity to get into PulseX. And of course, we talked about the amount of economic energy that's going to have buying power with the old burn amount, 21%. Of the fee. It's going to be pretty cool, and yeah, of the swap value, so it's going to be pretty nice. All right, so just remember that PulseX is based on a ratio in the pool, and of course as opposed to an order book that you have on centralized exchanges. So it's quite a different way of operating, and people can actually put funds into the pool because we're PulseX is going to be a fork of Uniswap version 2. It's going to have such a thing as a price curve, and of course it gets distributed over the whole price curve. So it's going to be fascinating. You put your tokens in that pool, 50-50 ratio. So you might have 50% PLSX and 50% PLS tokens into a new pool, and you can get in there, and you obviously earn a percentage of those fees as well. So it's going to be pretty mad time. For sure. So there's lots of opportunity, and especially with the biggest airdrop in history, you're going to get all those free pairs, and then eventually when a bridge opens up, you can bridge over ERC20s and pull those with PRC20s. You can pull them over. So obviously, you can do pulls with PLS that you may have got through the PulseChain Sacrifice. You can obviously buy these tokens or swap them for the ones that you want the most when PulseChain launches. So there's so much awesomeness there at the front. And of course, the yield farming is going to attract a lot of people that aren't even Pulsekins at the moment. So it's going to be pretty amazing to see that play out. Now, I know that Alex has got quite a bit of experience in yield farming. I'm sure many of you do out there. You've seen the people, they flock to the chains. But of course, with PulseChain and PulseX going to be the biggest airdrop and yield farming in history in crypto, you can see that they're going to come. They're going to come in the droves. So it's going to be pretty crazy, man. It's going to be crazy good. And like the other thing, of course, we often talk about is that a lot of projects that don't work on Ethereum anymore will be able to work on PulseChain with the super cheap and super fast fees. So you can have a lot of those communities revived, as it were, Phoenix rising from the ashes, and also you're going to have a lot of new projects coming on. And so we're going to try and talk about as many of the new projects as we can. It's going to be a topic I'm going to try and pick up over the next week, is talking about some of these new projects, like Trust Swap and places coming on, Trust Pulse loans and things. So we will start diving into that as well. I think that's of some value there. Mr. Hex says there's over 90,000 people now in the PulseX Telegram channel. Wow, that's fantastic. And Mr. Hex says bullish. Yeah, absolutely bullish. And are you saying live? Are you saying that they're actually active in there? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Hex? So Alex K says passive income from farming is awesome. Just got to avoid chasing crappy coins that give high returns and then go to zero. That's right. That's the key thing. So if you've experienced in yield farming, keep away from the crappy coins. Go for the good ones. Is the case to be. That's probably the basic wisdom there. Very nice. All right, looking good. I think we've got another comment here from Mike. Mike says, hi, Hex Token. Happy to see you streaming again today. We're going to have some kinetics action soon. Let's get ready for those 5555 stakes. Hey, Mike, you're absolutely right. So we are looking forward to the Hex Scale and Kinetics team running all those products. It's going to be pretty exciting at the moment. There's going to be blow people's minds. He's always trying to hold it back, and I know that Wales Only tries to hold him back from letting stuff out, and they've done pretty well keeping tight ship on that information. So we're all going to be, I love that stuff. You love surprises. I think it's going to be shock and awe when you get these big buys coming in. Like I said, they have a dilemma. Of course, PulseChain may help them with that. With the PX and the eHex, or Hex on Pulse as people are calling it, PulseChain, you're going to have they're going to have an issue of actually getting Hex, buying Hex. That's going to be the dilemma if you're coming in with big money. And of course, they're definitely going to have to use like Matcher and 1inch to efficiently do that, and then stake 5555, because everything, the cheaper they get it, the better returns they have for their investors. And so earlier is better. Obviously, if Hex starts right, they're going to be in competition potentially with other whales around as well, other people investing in. And of course, as more people come into the PulseChain, more people are going to flow into Hex. It's just inevitable. It's just going to be, that's what's going to happen, because there's already a lot of scarcity in Hex already. And of course, the share rates keeps going up and to the right as well. So all those fundamentals playing out, it's going to be pretty mad, crazy. Man, you just have to hold yourself back. Like right now, it's like this really quiet, but you can imagine January, February, and March next year, it's just going to be mind-blowing, really is, and it's just going to keep going into the year. It's going to be really fascinating to watch. Not live, just total members. Yeah, okay, total members, cool. I actually had a printout of that. Let me. I thought I had a printout of that at the moment. Where did I put that? At the moment, I'm going to pick that up there. It's just the one I've got. I think I've got a snapshot of that. You're talking about PulseX, 19,000 and PulseX. I think that was what you're saying. Not sure where my picture's gone. I had a picture here, but maybe it's not showing up here. No, that's the wrong picture. No, that was the wrong picture. All right, I thought I had a picture here, but maybe it's this one here. Yeah, I think it's this one. Yeah, so the last time I had a snapshot of this, I had PulseChain at 58,370 members. I'm sure it's gone bigger than that. And that's compared to Cardano, which had 51,200. So PulseChain.com's already bigger than Cardano, and I like Cardano. You know, I think they've still got more work to do, but PulseChain is already got a bigger community on Telegram. So it just gives you a big hint and direction of where that's going. That's for sure. All right. Let me get out of there, and I'm going to go back into the chat there. Sorry about that, just navigating some of my windows here. BJM says, how much is one PulseX point worth in PLSX value? Well, we don't know what the value of PLSX is going to be, but it's $1 per 10,000. So it's $1 per 10,000 at the moment. Food TV says PulseX sacrifice start. PulseX start sacrifice yet? No, not start yet, but it's imminent. Any time in the next within the next day or two. There, Food TV. Good to see you in the chat, by the way. D Hexkin says, anyone doing videos about the airdrops for PulseChain holders regarding protecting yourself? No, I don't know. I don't know if I've seen much around that. I know Papa B often talks around about security. It's probably the closest thing I've seen someone talk about. BJM says, is one PulseX point worth more than one PulseX CS though through PLSX is supposed to be launching with the price of 0. Well, technically, I guess they're all the same at the start if you're looking at that BGM, but the market will decide later on. Certainly, the same amount of points are the same at the moment. So that's probably the way I'd describe that. DXN says 0. Yeah. Mr. Hex says, I think, wait a minute. I've got it. Oh, what's happening to the mouse there? DXN, I think PulseX sacrifice will start December 30th, says Mr. Hex. I'm feeling it, Mr. Hex. I think you're right about that. Mr. Hex says, that's my guess. I think you might be right there. I don't think it's going to be the 31st. If we get 2 days on, so 30th and the 31st, and then we get 3 days on the other side in January, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, that's kind of how I think it's going to fit. And that would also mean that those people that were talking about getting paid salaries on January could actually sacrifice with the better rate, day 3, 10,000 points to 1. Obviously, like I say, the 2nd of January is also when this big stakes finish coming out. Then after that, man, it's got a big room for the price to go up. So let's leave a little gap after that. let's say it's a week, maybe the 7th, and then of course you've got the Hexpo conference kind of adds that next level of excitement around the air with the stakes being out. You could see a real price acceleration, and if we get the whales starting, like Hexscale start coming in and maybe start buying mid-late January. I don't know how fast they can get that up. Then you could see it really start to accelerate. It's going to be quite crazy, mad gains. Very, very cool. And Tex Hex says, how's your Axion looking? Yeah, well, it's we're talking about Hex here, so we'll keep talking about that right now. And Mike says, how much Hex is available for Kinetics team to buy once their trust team starts using the billions in funds? I thought we do not have much Hex for sale. That's right, we don't. I think we had about 120 million in Uniswap today at the snapshot. 120 million is not a lot. Yeah, pretty amazing. 120 million. That's why I said there's not a lot around. We do have a lot in circulating supply sitting in liquid wallets, and of course that's been going up as the stakes come out. But we just don't know what they're going to do. They're going to, like I said many times, they've basically got 4 options: hold and get a copy on PulseChain, stake short, medium, long, and get a copy on the PulseChain, sacrifice for PulseX, or sell down. And of course, we don't know how that's going to play out. We know that the incentives are there to do some of those things, because obviously you get a return by staking. You get a perspective if you're going to stake, you're getting a return. If you go and you get a copy on PulseChain, if you're going to sacrifice, you potentially get a return with the PulseX token. Obviously, it's speculative, but the probability is in your favor. So there are a couple of natural incentives there that should drive people's behavior, but we'll see what they do. So yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think he's in a dilemma there. I think when they actually get the money in their trust fund, I think they're going to go, oh, okay, how are we going to do this? And of course, they'll have to put some orders in, maybe with Metro 1 inch, something like that, and let the market buy into it. Is the way I'm going to pretty much sell into their buy orders. That's the way I sort of see it. Alex Casey's question: if you had an opportunity to put more into PulseX than what we did for Pulse, would you do it? I guess, is that a question for everybody else, or is a question for me? Yeah, the way I look at it, Alex, I see them as comparable in the sense that you're taking, you actually could get more actually in PulseX. You possibly could get more value in PulseX actually if you did the same amount or more. Because if you're assuming that maybe there's not as big whales, maybe it doesn't get up to that 550, maybe you could get that, and especially with the yield farming, tuning, buying the token with all those trade volumes on it, you could actually do quite well. So yeah, probably equal or more. One might argue there. RuneSky says, "G'day, Hex Token." Hey, RuneSky, good to see you in the house. Very, very cool. Hey, we've just come up on an hour and 21 minutes, so we're going to wrap it up in a minute. You know how I like to roll about an hour and 20. We've got a good price going on here, almost at 29 cents again. So we definitely got that in the last hour there. We got pretty close to 30 cents there. Having a little trouble there with my screen, but no. Mr. Hex says Richard wants to start at the end of the year so people can sacrifice before the end of the year for tax purposes. That's right. So I did mention that earlier, that there's obviously a 31st is tax day for some people, particularly in Northern Americans and other places around the world. It's like March or June. But I think Americans have a lot of end-of-year tax stuff, so that could play definitely in place. Good point there, Mr. Hexkin. D Hexkin says, last I looked, 116 million supply. Yeah, you're talking about ETH there as a D Hexkin. Perfect timing. Yeah, so we're expecting to be about 150, maybe somewhere like 135 to 150 trillion pulse in circulation. And of course, it's going to deflate over time with the fees getting burned. So that's how we're looking at it. So we'll see. They're not going to be exactly the same metrics. This total supply of PulseX is based on a similar logic. The amount of people that sacrifice $1 for 10,000 points is going to start adding up the supply that way, the same way the PulseChain worked. So we'll find out what the total supply is of that. Obviously, we're expecting the Origin account wallet to do the same, similar thing. Maybe sacrifice towards the end, get 85 to 90% of the sacrifice, and the same flat rate, maybe a 1.75. Is what we're kind of expecting there. And why it would do something different, can't really think of anything. Let me know in the chat if you have thought of something. Otherwise, I think it pretty much the similar. Gets that concentrated power, acts as the financial operator or controller as well. So yeah, definitely place. Don't forget, there's going to be some PulseX for the team as well. So 1%, I think it was. So we'll watch out for that. DHexkin says that's around 20 million USD to buy the lot, says DHexkin. And Mr. Hex says hold stake, sacrifice, but don't sell hexkins. Yeah, that's right. A lot of people who are hexkins, full of hexkins, don't like selling the liquid hex. They are going to get a copy on the PulseChain as PHEX or hex on PulseChain, and of course some of them would play that play as well. Now, if you had done PulseChain Sacrifice, you've had to wait all this time. Potentially, you have to wait all the way through to February, maybe, for the launch. It was our earliest date that I've got on my timeline at the moment, given the PulseChain testnets. And of course, you're going to have to, if you just kept your hex went up in value, went up to 50, 55 cents. So some of them would have done pretty well out of that in the short, medium term. So there are trade-offs when you're doing things. As well. So, but of course, those people that didn't sacrifice their hex or any other token in terms of US dollar account, remember it's the US dollar amount that you sacrifice at the time. That equivalent is the most important thing. So obviously, if a hex is higher during when you sacrifice, you can get more US dollars sacrificed as opposed to it being lower. So that might be the difference between being at 30 cents and 25 cents. Obviously, the person who sacrificed 30 cents is going to get a better, more PulseX points for that. So just take that into account. Rune Sky says, Alex, interested to see how everyone thinks about it. I'm splitting sacrifice 50-50 between PulseX and Pulse. It was a set to 40-60 ratio for PulseX Pulse for me before the buy and burn adage announced. Yeah, that's a good point there, Rune Sky's really good observation. Yeah. So that buy and burn, that deflationary aspect, of course, of PulseX is a game changer, and that as Rune Skies points out, you can change your strategy accordingly to that. But I'm thinking at or slightly more, and especially if there's less big whales in the house, I think that's pretty pumpalicious for me. So that's kind of a good point. Rune Skies says, once the sacrifice phase is over, I'll be back to 60% Hex, 20% PLS, and 20% PLSX. I was late to Hex, need to make up for it. Yeah, nice. That's a good strategy, Rune Skies. I appreciate you letting us know about that. Dollar cost averaging, that is. Yeah. Alex K says, great feedback, Rune Skies. Thank you. I went in lighter than what I wanted on Pulse. Plus I think tokenomics and PulseX are really good, advertising on the most popular use case for crypto trading. Yeah, and you may actually get a better outcome on PulseX. Like I say, if the value is not as high, if it's not not say 650 to 700 million from the public, or then if it's much less, then you could actually get a lot of value with that, given the fact that all those fees are going to be doing daily buys every day. And if we were to get really good domination in there, upwards of 400 to 600 million a year is what you're looking at in a reasonable estimate. So it really could be really cool. Obviously that assumes that we're still up at a fairly not the full-on bull market, but definitely not a bear market, sort of right where we are now. Those are assumptions, so you've got to take that into account as well. Because yeah, Mr. Hex says Hex going to $1 in March. I easily see that, Mr. Hex. Easily see that. I think we're looking. You're probably looking up $2, something like that. Is probably my case. Maybe even $2-3 by March if the big buyers come in before that. You could see that happening. And Mike says, next stream, can we talk about Hex buy pressure from stats before snapshot? Yeah, sure, Mike. We'll do that. And just got to close out of here. Let me just close some of these as well. So yeah, price just sneaking up to 29 cents, folks. It's getting exciting. Man, oh man, this is going to be so much fun the next day too. Hope you guys are going to enjoy it. I've gone much longer than I normally do. Next, and then the journey says, I wonder how much day one sacrifice is going to profit with PLS. Pretty cool. Just about everyone I know is not selling their PLS. Yeah, I don't know what you guys think of that, but basically all the, I guess maybe I know too many hardcore hexkins and pulsekins around, because basically they're not just not wanting to sell it, they want to accumulate. And I know that quite a few will try and do that through PulseX. So it's going to be pretty interesting in that. I think that's why I think we might get a little surprise around. We could get quite a bit of even big buyers in the house. There will be sellers, no doubt. If you get a 20x return, there'll be sellers out for that. If you get a 10x return, there'll be sellers out for that. So we'll just take that into account. But I think we actually might find there's a lot of buyers out there trying to vacuum up Pulse. That's definitely going to happen. Alex K says, of course, if everyone apes into PulseX, it can also balloon to very significant supply. That's true, Alex. So we're going to watch that. Will it be 25% of Pulse Sacrifice? Will it be 50%, 75%? And like I say, Richard talked about, he said 300 million, which is, 200 million is probably close to half, isn't it? 40, 45%. So we'll see. We'll see if we get any surprises from the big. It's really the big whales. They're going to do the big things, right? We had five whales do over $10 million, about 87 whales do $1 million. Are we going to get that sort of buy-in? Could we get 50% of that? Let's say, I'm going to be conservative and say 50% of that at this stage. So I'll stick with that, maybe 250 million, something like that. Let's see where we get to that. 215. It's slightly less than 50%, but I'm just being a bit conservative there. Mr. Hex is selling my PLS in 7 years, says Mr. Hex, and selling my PulseX in 2 years. Mr. Hex says restaking my EHEX and Hex for life. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that, Mr. Hex, and I won't ever sell. Oh, nice. Hey, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed that. We're sitting pretty nice here, just under 29 cents in the trading range. We've been in the trading range for a few days now, and of course, we've got the big news expected out any time now. Hopefully I'm going to be here at the right time, the right place to have that news come out. I have been pretty fortunate to have been up at the right time. Doing this at the right time and getting a lot of that news out straight away to you guys. So it has been a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to read this last couple of announcements. Just wrapping up at 1 hour and 30 minutes, so it's not bad. Let's just end up. Let's like the strategy. Mr. Hex is crypto by night, and yeah, Mike says we probably will double the sacrifice amount that we did for PulseChain. And since RH came out with the 21% burn, yeah, that's a good point, Mike. I could be completely wrong with that. I'm just being conservative there as well. Mr. Hex says always, hey, thanks, Crypto Night. Nice one. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for watching. Let's have a look here. All right, take care, everybody, and enjoy yourselves. And Alex, thanks for moderating as usual. And a big shout out to all of you out there in the big wide world. Let me get onto here. That was a pretty cool poll result, so hope you enjoy that. It was very nice. All right, let me just find this out. I'll have to put out some of these. Very cool. Yeah, let me post that. I think that's gone. Very cool. All right, so what have we got here? Anita says, I just missed it. I will have to watch reply. Hey, Anita, good to see you in the chat. And just held off on there, ending the live stream just for you. Very cool. We're on 1 hour and 30 minutes. Thanks for watching, everybody. And Mr. Hex says, thanks, Hex Token, great stream. Hey, I appreciate that. And D Hexons, thanks, guys and girls, for sure. And we've got nice stuff going on there. Alex says, don't forget to smash that like if you can. Yeah, subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, of course. And if you've got any comments afterwards, I will respond to your comments. Very cool. Ahmed says, hello. And Mr. Hex, we got Hex emojis, lol. Yeah, absolutely. That's those emojis are on. If you become a Hex Token channel member, you get those emojis as well. So very cool. Nice. All right, so very cool. I'm going to finish on that one. And bye for now. Take care. All right, I've got to find I can't even find the end broadcast button, but here it is. All right, salute. Cheers.